The land of chivalry. Bretonnia is the land of chivalry. Its vast armies are without a doubt among the greatest of the world, and its warriors, they be noble or peasant, are possessed by unshakable faith of righteousness in their cause. If there would be but a single bastion in the world where ideals of honor and goodness still exist, then surely it would be the kingdom of Bretonnia. Guile le Breton. Long before the coming of Sigmar, humans settled in the lands between the Grey Mountains and the Great Oceans. But it was not until the arrival of the warlike Bretonnia tribe that the true nation was born. The Bretonnia, with their own strange customs and notions, rejected Sigmar's offers of alliance, remaining divided for centuries into numerous petty fiefdoms. These battled constantly for survival against rampaging orcs from the mountains, beastmen raiders from the forest, and undead invaders from the sea. Fortunately, a young knight would rise and save his people from annihilation. In the year 976 in the imperial calendar, Guile le Breton, Duke of Baston, rode to the relief of the neighboring fiefdom. Resting his army upon the banks of a lake, an eternal woman appeared before him. Rising from the waters, sensing her goodness, Guile knelt and asked her to bless his banner and his army. The Fey woman bade Guile drink from her grail, a drinking vessel that granted those who drank from it immortality. So blessed, Guile and his followers became the first knights of the Grail, and one by one the dukes of Bretonnia gathered to his banner. By the end of the century, Bretonnia has been liberated from the foes, and dukes elevated Guile to the rank of High King of the realm. Under his reign, Bretonnia prospered as never before. The Lady of the Lake. In the long years before the time of Guile's, the Bretonnia tribes worshipped a host of different gods. Many of these were similar to those reveled by the tribes of the east, such as Mor, the grim god of death, or the forest god Tal, albeit under the different names. The centuries since the time of Guile, their gods have been largely replaced by the worship of the Lady of the Lake. The Lady is the patron god of Bretonnia, for virtues and chivalry and honor. It is eternal quest of all knights to seek her out, earn her blessing and drink from the grail. Though she has no priest or acolytes, her emanaries are the Fey Enchantress and the Grail Damsel. They serve under her, possessed by potent magic abilities. The Fey Enchantress is considered the living embodiment of the lady and stands the side of the king, guiding him in all the things. Likewise, the Grail Damsel guide the knights of Bretonnia on their quest, often accompanying them to war and lending their magical power to their armies of battle. Foreigners have been known to scoff at the notion of some magical aquatic woman protecting the Bretonnian knights from harm, at least until they have seen with their own eyes the power of the lady turn aside arrows before they could strike home. The might of Bretonnia, the blessing of the lady, and the longevity of the Bretonnian rulers have been both a blessing and a curse for its people. Though they enjoy the great stability and safety, the realm has become trapped in time. Its dukes and kings achieving the technology advances of the neighboring lands to remain true to ideals of chivalry and knighthood. Yet despite the disadvantages of stagnant technology and the rigid codes of chivalry, the armies of Bretonnia are still a force to be reckoned with. The blessing of the Lady of the Lake grants her knights protection against all manner of harm, while filling their hearts with determination and grace, making them among the most formidable warriors of the world. It's just as well Bretonnia's armies are so strong, For history of Bretonnia is one of the constant war against enemies from without, greedy aggressors who would violate their realm, intend to plunder and conquest, and against enemies from within, the debased children of the dark gods who slay and burn in the name of evil patrons. But the most bitter of all wars are those where knights fights against knights, dukes against dukes. Fostered by the mistrust, vain pride, betrayal, lust, and above all, greed, this internecine strife has been the curse of Bretonnia more than any enemy. Only the rule for a strong monarch can stop the bickering among the dukes, settle their quarrels, and direct the energy of a united Bretonnia against their real enemies. When this happens, the nation's knightly army ride out of the noble crusades, whether within the borders of the realm or to a far-off land. Knights of the Realm. The might of Bretonnia's army lies in their many ranks of knights. Organized by strict feudal hierarchy, their battle-tempted warrior ride to war upon the finest of chargers, intelligent, fiery and strong animals, the heroic proportions, clad in baronic suits of armor overlaid with rich liveries and embellished with their heraldic devices. A knight's weapon of choice is his lance, with which much time is spent training in the just. In battle, the knight of the Bretonnia fight wedge-shaped lance formation, the charges piercing deep into the ranks of the enemy, like a weapon for which they were named pierces flesh, capable of breaking apart even the legendary, impenetrable battle lines of the dwarves. Peasant of Bretonnia. The bulk of Bretonnian army is made of the innumerable feudal peasant. By the standards of other lands, these peasants live squalid existence. Yet they revere their rulers as the protectors of the realm and the paragons of bravery and honor. Thus, when the lords call, they eagerly take up arms. Peasant bowmen are the most numerous, the bow being a common hunting tool for the people of Bretonnia, and one many learn to use at a young age. Others, should they prove strong and capable enough, might find a place among their lord's men-at-arms, where they form a solid block of infantry armed with heavy pole arms, serving their lord as such way as an honor not soon forgotten by those who survive. The Great Crusaders. Throughout the centuries, vast hosts of knights have crossed the mountains that border fair Bretonnia into the Empire, Estelia, Telia, and the border princes and the Badlands. Others have embarked upon the great galleons that have carried the warriors and their steeds into faraway lands of Norska, Arabi, Alabon, and even the mysterious lands of the dead. Their purpose of such crusades are simple: to crush the enemies of Bretonnia before they can muster upon the borders and threaten the humble existence of the peasant masses. In the burning heat of the Nehekaran desert, gallant knights have done battle with the undying legion of Tomb Kings. Glorious formation of horsemen crashing through endless regiments of skeletal soldiers until the crusaders' bright leveliers are entirely obscured by the powdered bone and dust of ages. Entire orc and goblin tribes have been slaughtered by the crusading Bretonnians without mercy. The crushing charges of galloping horses and heavy lance have been enough to slay the enemy elite before the rank and file is driven into the sea. Monumental Bretonnian fortresses has been built in these foreign lands in order to control remote provinces in the name of the king. But even the devoted and ferocious knight of the Bretonnian cannot be everywhere at once. History has proven time and again the truth of the ancient Bretonnian adage: the realm and the king are one. Truly, the land has withered and suffered under the rule of corruption and weak rulers. The Orc Slayer. The current ruler of Bretonnia is Loran Orcslayer, so named for a crusade to rid his nation of orc and goblin tribes. Hailed in the great king since Guy le Breton himself, Leon has ruled for almost 80 years, thanks to the longevity imparted to him by the Grail. The exceptional warrior and wise king, he rules from his court of the Dukedom of Baston to maintain the stability of this kingdom. In the recent years, the wars plaguing the empire has spilled over to the eastern parts of Bretonnia, forcing Lon to see brigand armies and ambitious imperial nobles. Through the king see emperor's woes and very much the intentional promo. Though the king sees the emperor's woes is very much an internal promo, he's entertained the ambassadors from each of the major claimants of imperial throne, with some of his dukes even doing so far as to campaign for the empire. More often than not, Luen's attention are focused on his western shores and the realms of the south. Though the neighboring nation of Estilia enjoys largely good relations with Bretonnia, the two kingdoms periodically fight border skirmishes. It is the beastmen, orcs and undead who often raid from the direction and must be seen off by the knightly armies. The king has even shown the interest in bringing stability to the border princes, so it might act as a buffer against the badlands and hostile realms further south, though so far Loen has been thwarted in his ambition, beyond a handful of exiled knights laying claim to parts of his blighted region.
Rejoice, for we, the Knights of Bretonnia, will be your shield.